Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited about today's video because we are going to cover something that is absolutely fundamental to web development, and that is the HTML ID attribute. Now some of you might be thinking, oh, it's just an attribute, how much is there really to talk about? But trust me, by the end of this video you are going to realize just how powerful this one single attribute really is. We are going to cover everything from scratch, every concept, every rule, every use case with full examples that I will explain step by step, line by line, so that nothing is left confusing. This video is perfect whether you are a complete beginner who has never written a single line of HTML before, or someone who has been coding for a while but wants to truly understand the ID attribute at a deeper level. So make sure you're comfortable, grab a notebook if you want to take notes, and let's dive straight in. Before we talk about the ID attribute specifically, let me give you a very quick refresher on HTML itself, just so we are all on the same page. So as we know that HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Okay, it is the standard language used to create and structure content on the web. Every website you have ever visited, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, all of them are built on HTML at their core. HTML works using something called tags. Okay, there are different types of tags. So let's talk about ID attribute. So what exactly is the ID attribute? The ID attribute is used to give an HTML element a unique identity. Okay, it is used to give an HTML to give an element. Okay, let's write element a unique identity. Understand? On the page. The word unique here is the most important word. It means that the ID value you give to one element cannot be used on any other element on that same page. Okay? Imagine you are in a classroom with 30 students. Every student has a name, and some students might share the same name. There might be two students named John, but every single student has a unique student ID number. No two students share the same ID number. That is exactly how the HTML ID attribute works. It gives each element its own one kind identifier. Okay? So let me show you the real life example where you can understand the ID in a better way. So first of all, we have here heading 1, and we are going to use ID attribute. Now we are going to name our ID, and the ID name is page title. Okay, let me write some text here. Welcome to my website. Okay, so we start with h1, as you can see, and this is a heading tag, the largest heading in HTML. Inside the opening tag, okay, as you can see, inside the opening tag we write the ID. The ID is page title. This means we are giving this specific h1 element an ID with the value of page title. Then we write the content, welcome to my website, and we close the tag, as you can see. Now this h1 element has a unique identity. We can now target it specifically in CSS to style it, or in JavaScript to manipulate it, or use it as a navigation bookmark. We'll cover all of those things one by one very shortly. Now before we start writing examples, I want to make sure you understand the rules of the ID attribute. So the rule number 1 is the ID must be unique. Okay, let me write here the rules. ID must be unique. So this is the number 1 rule and the most important one. On any given HTML page, each ID must be completely unique. You cannot have two elements with the same ID. Okay. So for example, if you use here h1 and you use the ID attribute and you are going to write some text here, then for example I'm going to write here hello world. Now let me use another heading, and I'm gonna use the ID attribute. I'm gonna write here intro text. I'm gonna write here hello world. Okay, these both are correct. But if you use here like this ID, if I use here main title, same ID, this is incorrect. This is wrong. Okay, so as you can see, both elements have the same ID of the main title. This breaks the rule of uniqueness. Browser may still display the page, but your CSS and JavaScript will behave unpredictably and cause bugs. So rule number two, no spaces allowed. Okay. Rule number two, no spaces allowed. The ID value cannot contain any spaces whatsoever. If you want to write a multi-word ID, you must use one of these alternatives. So the alternatives are you can use hyphen to separate words. Okay, you can use underscores to separate words, or you can use the camel case like this, where the first word is lowercase as you can see, and every following word starts with the capital letter. So all three of these are valid. Okay, so if you use space, this is wrong. This is invalid. The space between main and title makes this completely wrong. Always remember no spaces in ID values. Okay. There is rule number three. The rule number three is ID is case sensitive. Okay. It is case sensitive. The ID attribute is case sensitive. This means that uppercase and lowercase letters are treated as completely different characters. If you use T, I mean lowercase letter, and if you use T, these both are different. Okay, they are completely different. So this is very important to keep in mind, especially when you are using JavaScript to find an element by its ID. If the capitalization does not match exactly, JavaScript will not find the element. There is rule number 4. The rule number 4 is at least one character. Okay, the ID value must have at least one character. You cannot have an empty ID like this. If you use here and ID, if you left it empty, you can't do this. Okay, this is wrong, this is invalid. So this is an invalid HTML. Always make sure your ID has a meaningful name with at least one character. There is rule number 5. The rule number 5 is make your ID names meaningful. Okay, so this is not a technical rule enforced by the browser, but it is a best practice that professional developers always follow. Give your IDs names that describe what the element actually is or does. So give it, make your ID names meaningful. So if you use like h1 main title, it tells you immediately what that element is just by reading the ID name. Okay, this makes your code much easier to read, maintain, and debug. So now let's get into one of the most practical and most commonly used applications of the ID attribute, and we are going to use it, styling elements with CSS. Okay, so CSS stands for cascading style sheets. It is the language we use to style HTML elements, controlling colors, fonts, sizes, spacing, backgrounds, and much more. In CSS, when you want to target an element by its ID, you use the hash symbol. Understand? So you must remember that you use the hash symbol, also called pound sign. Also called pound sign or the number sign, you can also call it. So which looks like this. So you write the hash symbol followed immediately by the ID name, and then inside curly braces you write your styles. So let me show you. For example, you can do this. You use hash symbol, then you use the ID name, and in curly braces you write your styles. Now let me show you a complete full example so you can see exactly how this works in practice. Okay, so first of all, we are going to call here doctype HTML. Now we need the HTML tag, and inside this opening tag we are going to set the language. Okay. Now we need to start the head tag, and inside head tag we are going to set the meta char set, and we are going to set here UTF. Now we need meta name, and we are going to set it to viewport. Okay, so we are going to set here content, and we are going to use here width is equal to device width, and we are going to set here the initial scale, and we are going to set it to 1.0. So we are going to close it. See, we have closed it. Now we need here the title tag. Okay. So inside the title tag, I'm gonna use the title. The title is HTML ID attribute CSS example. Okay, so I'm gonna start the style tag. Let's start the style tag, and inside the style tag we are going to use the ID name. The ID name is page. So I'm gonna set the background color. The background color will be dark, and the text color will be white, and the text align property, and I'm gonna set it to center. Okay, now I'm gonna use the padding. The padding will be 40 px, and the font size I'm going to set it to 36 px. Okay, now let's target the intro section ID. So intro section, and we are going to set the background color for this. The background color will be light yellow. So I'm gonna use here the border left, and I'm going to set it to 6 px solid orange. Okay, now I'm gonna set the padding for this. The padding will be 20 px, and margin for this will be 30 px, and I'm going to set the font size for this. The font size will be 18 px, and I'm going to set the color for text. The color will be dark gray. Okay, so the color is dark gray. Okay, now let's target the another ID. That name is hash highlight. So the background color for highlight box will be light green, and the border will be 2 px solid green. Okay, so I'm gonna set here the border radius. The border radius will be 10 px. Now I need to set here the padding for this. The padding will be 25 px, and the margin, let me set here the margin will be 30 px, and the font size for this, the font size will be 20 px, and the font weight. Okay, so let me set it to bold, and here I'm going to use another property, that is text align, and I'm going to set it to center. Okay, now let's target another ID, that is page footer. So we are going to target it. In curly braces, I'm going to set the background color for page footer. The background color will be dark blue, and the color of the text will be white, and I'm going to use here the text align property, and I'm going to set it to center. Now here I'm going to use the padding. The padding will be 20 px, and the font size will be 14 px. Now I'm going to use here another property, that is margin top. and I'm going to set it to 40px. Okay, so now let's start the body tag, and we are going to write our body. So first of all, we need here the div id, I mean div element, and we are going to set here the id. The id is page header. Okay, now let me open up the preview tab so you can better observe the code. Okay, so as you can see, we have set the page header. We have given the id to our div element. Now let me write here, welcome to my website. Okay, welcome to my website. Now what I need here the paragraph. I'm going to set the id. The id is intro section. Okay, so now let me add here like this is the introduction section of our web page. Okay, now let me add another line. Another line says it has a yellow background, as you can see, and an orange left border. Okay, let me add another line. Another line says to make it stand out from the rest of the content. Okay, so now let me add uh, okay, so here we have completed our paragraph. Now let me add another div element, and I'm going to set here id. The id name is highlight box. Okay, and here I'm gonna write like this is a highlighted box with a green background and rounded corners. So if I close here, as you can see, we have set the style for the highlight box, so it will work. Okay, so here we need to start another div element. Let me start it. The div element that says id is page footer. Id is page footer. Now let me add here some text. The text is copyright 2026 my website and all rights reserved. Okay, so now let me walk you through this entire example step by step so you understand every single line. So starting at the very top, if you come here, doc type HTML, this tells the browser that this is an HTML5 document. Always write this on the very first line of every HTML file. Then we have HTML, language set it to English. This is the root element of the entire page. The language, as you can see, we set it to EN, tells the browser that the language of this page is English. Inside the head tag, okay, we have meta char set UTF-8. This sets the character encoding so that special characters display correctly. Then we have meta name, viewport, and content width is equal to device width and initial scale 1.0. This makes the page responsive on mobile devices. Here we have title. This is the text that appears in the browser tab. Okay, then we have our style tag. This is where we write our CSS directly inside the HTML file. Now let's look at the CSS section carefully. So first of all, we target the page header. This hash symbol tells CSS we are targeting an element with the ID of page header. Then inside the curly braces, we have used background color. and we set it to dark blue. So let me set it to dark blue. So as you can see, this is affecting. So as you can see, then inside the curly braces, you can see we have set the background color to dark blue, makes the background dark blue. So we have set the color is white, makes the text white. As you can see, the text align, we set it to center, uh, it centers the text, and padding is 40 px, adds 40 pixels of space inside the element on all four sides, and the font size is 36 px, makes the text 36 pixels large. Now let's move to the another section, that is intro section. So intro section targets the element with id intro section. Okay, so as you can see, the background color light yellow, we have set it, give it a soft yellow background, and the border left is 6 px solid orange, adds a thick orange solid border only on the left side. This creates that nice highlighted sidebar effect you often see on documentation websites. The padding is 20 px, adds a space inside, and the margin is 30 px, adds space outside the element, pushing it away from the edges and other elements, and the font size is 18 px, sets the text size, and the color is dark gray. As you can see, makes the text dark gray color. Okay, another section here is highlight box. So we set it to the background color is, as you can see, light green, and highlight box targets the element with the id highlight box. As you can see, the background color gives it a light green background. The border is 2 px, that is solid green, adds the 2 pixels solid, and here, as you can see, we have the border radius 10 px around the corners of the box, giving it the a very smooth color, as you can see. So 10 px rounds the corners of the box, giving it that smooth rounded rectangle look. Padding 20 px, add the space inside. As you can see here, the margin is 30 px, adds a space outside, and the font size is 20 px. It sets this text size, and the font weight is bold. It will make the text bold, as you can see in the preview tab too. And the text align is set to center. It centers the text inside the box. The next section is page footer. So page footer, the footer element, as you can see, the background color is dark blue, so it will give it the same dark blue as the header, creating a consistent design. The color is white, uh, that will make the text white. Text align is set to center, so everything, the text will be in the center. Here the padding, so padding adds inner space, and the font size is 14 px, so makes the footer text slightly smaller than the body text, which is common design choice. And margin top is 40 px, adds a space above the footer to separate it from the content above it. Okay, now in the body section we have four elements, each with their own unique id, as you can see. So first of all, here we have the div. The div has the id page header, so all those dark blue header styles get applied to it, as you can see. Then we have paragraph. So this paragraph has the id intro section, so it gets the yellow background and orange left border. Then we have another div element here. So this div has the id highlight box, so it gets the green rounded box styling. Then we have another div element, and this div has the id page footer, so it gets the dark blue footer styling. So every element is uniquely styled through its own id. So this is the beauty of the id attribute in CSS. Now at this point, many of you are probably wondering, this sounds similar to the class attribute, so what is the difference? A great question. and I want to make sure this is crystal clear. The class attribute can be applied to multiple elements. The ID attribute must be applied to only one element. Okay? If you use here, for example, and if you use here class, you can give it the same name, highlight. If you are using here ID, you cannot do this. Okay, this is wrong. So now let's talk about the second major use of the ID attribute, and this one is incredibly powerful, using ID with JavaScript. JavaScript is the programming language of the web. It allows us to make our web pages dynamic and interactive. And the ID attribute is the primary way JavaScript finds and interacts with specific HTML elements. The main method we use is called getElementById. Let me break down this method name so you understand it perfectly. Here the document refers to the, let me write here so you can better understand it. So first of all, the name is, so let me write here the ID so it can better catch the effect. And I'm gonna write here, for example, let me show here the ID name was page footer. Okay, so let me write here page footer. Now let me write some text to show you. We in JavaScript we use get element by ID. Okay, so in JavaScript when we use the method that is called get element by ID, so let me break down for you. So in this, the document refers to the entire HTML page. Okay, this is the element refers to the entire HTML document, HTML page. And get element by ID, if you use, means get me the element that has this specific ID. Inside the parentheses, we pass the ID name as a string, meaning it must be in quotation marks. So for example, you use the code like this: document dot get element by ID, and then you write your ID name. Okay, your ID name. So this returns the actual HTML element, and once we have that element, we can do all kinds of things with it. Change its text, change its style, show it, hide it, and much more. So let me now show you a series of complete full example. So first of all, let's change the text. So here we need the dog type HTML. Then we are going to use here the HTML, and so let me use here the HTML, and inside HTML we are going to set the language is English. Now here we need the head tag, and inside head tag we are going to use here meta. So meta char set UTF-8. Now we need here the title. So the title will be JavaScript ID example, and it is one. Okay, we have another example. So here we need this style tag, and inside style tag we are going to target ID that name is message box. So we are going to use the background color. So the background color for this ID will be light yellow. I'm going to set it to light yellow, and the border will be 2px solid orange. Okay, now let me add the padding for this. The padding will be 20px, and the font size will be 22px. So I'm going to use here the property that says text align, and I'm going to set it to center. The margin will be 30px, and the border radius. Okay, let me add the border radius. The border radius is 8 px. Now let's use another id. That name is change button. We are going to target it. Display, we are going to set it to block. Okay, and here we are going to use the margin. The margin is 0 auto, and we are going to use here the padding. The padding will be 12 px, then 30 px. Okay, we'll explain it later. So the background color for this, the background color will be dark blue, and the color for the text will be white. And now let me set the font size for this. The font size will be 18 px. Now I'm gonna use here the border. The border I'm going to set it to none, and here I'm gonna use the border radius. I'm going to set it to 6 px. Now let me add the cursor. The cursor is point. Let's close the style tag, and now we need to open up the body tag. Inside the body tag we need here the paragraph element, and we are going to use id. The id name is message box, and we are going to close it. Now let's add some text. This is the original message, and let's write some other text like click the button to change it. Okay, so uh, let me add here the button. The button is, let me set the id. The id is change button. Okay, and we are going to use here the function. The function name is on click, so I'm going to use here the change message, and we are going to set the function. And now we are going to close the button, and button says change the message. Okay, so now let's add the script. First of all, we need here the script. So let's add some script, and inside script we are going to call our function. The function is change message. Okay, we are going to use it. Now what we need here, we need here document dot get element by id, and we need here the id name. The id name is message box. Okay, then we are going to use here dot inner html, and we are going to use here the equal sign, and inside equal sign we are going to write here the message has been successfully, right here, successfully changed by JavaScript. Okay, now let's close this, and we are going to close everything because we have set the JavaScript. So let me explain every part of this example very carefully. So in the style tag, if you see, we have the message box, which styles our paragraph with a yellow background, orange border, padding, center text, rounded corners, as you can see, and we have a lot. So we also have change button. So change button, which styles our button. Display, we set it to block, margin is 0, and auto center the button horizontally on the page. As you can see, we have padding. The padding is set to 12 px, and 30 px add space inside the button. So the background color is dark blue, as you can see, and the color is white. Font size is 18 px, and the border is none. We set it to none, and the border radius, as you can see, 6 px. It rounds the corners slightly, and the cursor is pointer. So it changes the mouse cursor to a hand pointer when hovering over the button, which tells the browser we tell the user that is clickable, as you can see. Okay, so in the body tag, if you see, we have a paragraph element with the id message, that is message box. Its original text says this is the original message. Okay, click the button to change it. Then we have a button, as you can see. So button element with the ID that says change button. Notice the on click. Here we have on click, and the on click we set it to change message attribute. So this means when the button is clicked, it will call a JavaScript function called change message. Now in the script, if you see, in the script section at the bottom, we define that function change message. So we are defining a function named change message. As if I click on function, it automatically moved me to the change message. So when this function is called, it executes everything inside the curly braces. So here we have the document dot get element by id message box, as you can see. So this finds the element on the page that has the id of the message box. This is our paragraph. Okay, here we have inner HTML. So this property lets us get or set the HTML content inside an element. The message has been successfully changed by JavaScript. We are setting the inner HTML to this new string of text. So when the user clicks the button, the text inside the paragraph changes from the original message to the new message, all without refreshing the page. This is the power of combining JavaScript with the ID attribute. Now let me click the button. So if you click, as you can see, the text has been changed. Okay, so here we have another example that changing styles dynamically with the JavaScript. Okay, so let me show you how you can do this. So first of all, we need here doc type HTML. Now we need HTML. So let me add here the language. The language is English. Okay, so now let me add here the meta char set, and we are going to set it to UTF-8. Okay, so now we need here the title tag, and we are going to write here JavaScript ID example2. Okay, because we are dealing with the ID. Now we need here the style tag, and inside style tag we are going to target first of all hash color box. And first of all, we are going to use here the width. The width is 300 px, and the height, for example, we are going to set here the height is 200 px. The background color for this, let me write here the background color. The background color will be light gray. Okay, let me set it. And I'm gonna use here the margin. The margin is 30 px auto. Okay, now let me add here the border radius. So the border radius is 12 px. And now let me add the display. The display, I'm going to set it to flex, and here we need the align items, and we are going to set it to center. So now let me justify the content. Justify the content, I'm going to set it to center. Now we need here the font size. So font size will be 22 px. Okay, and here we need the font weight. The font weight will be bold, and the text color will be white. So we have set the style for the ID that says color box. Now we are going to set the style for the class. The class name is style button. So we are going to target it. Display, I'm going to set it to inline block, and here we need the margin. The margin, I'm going to set it to 10 px. Now we need here the padding. The padding, I'm going to set it to 12 px and 25 px. Now what I need here, the font size, and I'm going to set it to 16 px. And now we need here the border, and I'm going to set it to none. Okay, the border radius will be 6 px, and here I'm gonna use the cursor will be pointer, and the text color will be white. Okay, now I'm gonna use here the font weight property, and I'm going to set it to bold. So here we need another ID, that is, for example, let me show you how you can do this. So here we are going to target another ID. The ID name is button red. Okay. So here I'm going to use the background color. The background color will be crimson. Okay. The background color is crimson. Now I'm going to target another ID. That name is button blue. Okay, so I'm gonna set the background color for this. The background color will be steel blue. So I'm gonna target another ID. That name is button green, and we are going to set the background color for this. The background color will be sea green, and here I'm gonna target another ID. That name is button reset, and we are going to set the background color for this. The background color will be gray. Okay, now let me target another ID. That name is button area. So I'm going to write here text align property, and I'm going to set it to center. Okay, so here we have this style. We have styled our HTML page completely. Now what we are going to do, we are going to start here the body tag. Inside body, we are going to write here div, and we are going to set the ID for the div. The ID name is color box. Okay, so I'm going to write here click a button to change my color. Okay, so now we need here, uh, let me show you how you can do this. So first of all, we need here another div element, and the ID is, for example, button area. Okay, so now we need here button. So first of all, the button, and I'm gonna set the ID for this. The ID name is button red. Okay, and we are going to use here the class, and we are gonna give the class name. The class name is style button, and we are going to use here the on click property. That is and we are going to set here the function. The function is change color. Okay, and we are going to write here the crimson style, and now we are going to close this tag, and I'm going to write here red. Okay, so now let me add another button. So the button ID is, for example, button blue. Okay, so now let me add the class. The class name is style button. Now let me add on click function, and I'm gonna set it to for example, change color, and we are going to set it to, for example, here we're gonna use the name steel blue. So first of all, let me add it to steel blue. Okay, so we are going to close it, and I'm gonna write here blue. So let me add another button, the button that says, and the ID is, for example, button green, and we are going to use here the class name. The class name is style button. So here we need the on click, and we are going to use here the change color, and we are going to use here the function. The function is sea green, and now we are going to close this tag, and I'm going to write here green. Okay, so now we need another button, button 4, and we are going to set the ID. The ID name is button reset. Okay, for example, the id name is button reset, and here we need the class name. So the class name is style button, and here we need the on click, and inside on click I'm gonna write here change button. Okay, sorry, change color, and I'm gonna write here light gray. And now I need to close this tag, and I'm gonna write here reset. Okay, so here we have buttons. Now let's add some script. First of all, we need here the script tag, and inside this we are going to call our function. The function name is change color. Okay, so I'm gonna write here new color, function name, and I'm gonna write here document to target the full HTML page, and I'm gonna write here get element by ID. So the ID name is, what is ID name? The ID name is color box. Okay, so here we need dot style dot background color. Okay, so let me use this property, and I'm gonna use here new color. Okay, and we are going to set it. Now let's close the tag, and as you can see, so let me walk through this example completely. First of all, we have a div with the ID, as you can see, color box. So in the CSS, if you see, let me show you the color box. If you see in the CSS, this box is a 300 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall. It starts with the gray background and margin, as you can see, 30 px. Auto centers the box horizontally on the page, as you can see, and the border radius we set it to 12 px, gives it nicely rounded corners, and the display is flex. Align items we set it to center, and justify content the center. Font size is 22 px, and the font weight is bold, and the color is white. Then we have four buttons. Here we have four buttons, each with their own unique ID: button red, button blue, button green, and button reset. Okay, so they all share the class. The class name is, as you can see, we have targeted this class 2. So the class name is I mean uh, the class name is style button for their common styling like padding, border radius, and cursor. But each one has its own ID for its individual background color. So each button's on click calls change color and passes a different color as an argument, as you can see. So in the JavaScript, if you look at the JavaScript function, the function is change color, and we set it to new color. So we define a function that accepts one parameter called new color. Okay, it's a parameter. So whatever color string is passed in, it gets stored in the new color. So document dot get element by ID, and we set it to color box, finds the box element by its ID. Then we use here the style and the background color, then we set it to new color. So sets the background color of that element to whatever value is in new color. So when the red button is clicked, so change color crimson, as you can see, if you click it, as you can see. So when you click the blue button, then when green is clicked, if you click green, it turns sea green. And when if you click on the reset button, and it gets back to light gray. The entire interactive color changing system works because of the ID attribute connecting our HTML elements to our JavaScript functions. Understand? Now, far away, we have talked about ID attribute. Now let's talk about the third major use of the ID attribute, and this one is something that many beginners overlook completely. Using ID for in-page navigation, also known as HTML bookmarks or anchor links. This feature allows you to create links that when clicked scroll the user to a specific section on the same page. You see this all the time on long web pages like documentation pages, blog articles, or landing pages with a table of contents at the top. So let me show you how it works. So you give the target section an ID and then you create a link that points to that ID using the hash symbol. Okay, let me show you a complete full example so you can better understand the code and you can work it. You can work on it properly. So first of all, we need here doc type HTML. Then we need HTML document. We need here language. The language is we are going to set it to English. So we need here the head tag. So inside the head tag, we need meta char set, and we are going to set it to UTF-8. Now we need here the title tag. The title name is page navigation with ID. Okay, so what I need the style tag, and inside style tag I'm gonna use the I'm gonna target the body. Okay, first of all, and here we are going to use the property name is font family, and here I'm gonna use the Arial and sans serif. Okay, sans serif, and now we are going to close it, and here I'm going to use the margin is 0 and the padding will be 0. Okay, so now let's target the the ID name is navigation bar. Okay, so the background color for this will be dark blue, and now let me add some padding. The padding will be 15 px and 30 px, and the position will be, for example, sticky. Okay, so top is, let me add the top will be 0. Okay, so now let's target another ID. That name is navigation bar links. Okay, we are going to we are going to style the links. So white text decoration, let me add none. Okay, and the margin right will be 25 px. Now let me add some font size to it. So the font size will be 18 px, and here we are going to use the font weight property, and we are going to set it to bold. So now let me target another ID, and that name is hash navigation bar a hover effect. Okay, we are going to set the hover, and here we are going to use the single property. That name is gold. Okay, so now let's target another ID. That name is home section. Need here the background color, because we are going to set the background color for this. The background color will be light blue, and here we are going to set the height will be 500 px, and I'm going to use the display will be flex, and here we are going to use the align items property, and we are going to set it to center. Now let me add the justify content, and we are going to set it to center too. Now we need the font size property, and I'm going to set it to 42 px. Now we need here the font weight property, and I'm going to set it to bold. The color will be, for example, dark blue. Okay, so now let me target another ID. That name is about section. Okay, because we are going to build a full page. The background color for this will be light yellow. Height will be, for example, 500 px, and I'm gonna set the display will be flex. Now let me add align items property, and I'm gonna set it to center. Now we need here the justify items, and we are going to justify content. Okay, now let me set it to center. So here we need the font size property, and we are going to set it to 42 px. and we need here the font weight property, and we are going to set it to bold. Now we need here the color of the text. The color will be dark orange. Okay. Now we are going to target another section. That name is service. So here the background color for the service section will be, let me add the background color. The background color will be light green. Add the light green color, and the height for this section will be 500 px. The display will be flex, and we are going to use here align items, and I'm going to set it to center. Now let me add justify content. Okay, add here justify content, sorry, justify content, and we are going to set it to center. Now we need here the font size, and we are going to set it to, for example, 42 px. Now let me add font weight, and we are going to set it to bold, and we are going to set the color for the text. The color will be, for example, dark green. Okay, now let's another section. We are going to target another section. That name is content section. Okay, so I'm going to set the background color for this section. The color will be lavender, and the height for this section will be 500 px, and the display will be flex. Now let me add the align items property, and I'm going to set it to center. Now we need here justify content, and we are going to set it to center. Now we need here the font size property, and I'm going to set it to 42 px. Now we need the font weight property, and we're going to set it to bold. We need the color for the text. The color will be purple. Okay, so what we need here, we have set the style. Now we need to start the body tag. Inside the body tag, we are going to add, first of all, comment. Okay, so first of all, we need to add the comment. The comment is navigation bar. So here we need the div element, and we are going to set here the id. The id name is navigation bar. Okay, now we need to add here anchor tag. So first of all, a href, and I'm going to write here, for example, home section. It's an example. Okay, and I'm going to write here home. Now let me add another anchor tag, and I'm going to write here href hash about section, and I'm going to write here about. Now we need here anchor tag and href, and I'm going to write here hash service. Let me check the, so here we use the service section. Okay, so let me add here the service section, and I'm going to write here services. Okay, now let me add another anchor tag, and I'm going to write here href hash content section, and I'm going to write here uh, sorry, we have used here content section, but we need to write here contact. Okay, so I'm going to use here the contact section. So now let me add here contact. Okay, so what we need, we are going to start another div element, in which we are going to describe our home section. So first of all, we need here an the comment, and I'm going to write here home section. Okay, now let me add the home section, the div element, and we're going to set the id for this. The id name is home section. Okay, so now let me add here home section, and what we are gonna do now, we need here another ID. The ID name is, let me add here, about section, for example. Now we need here div element and we need here ID. The ID name is about section. If you check it, let me show you how it works. So as you can see, and I'm gonna write here about section. Okay, so now we need here what we need here, we need here services section. So we are gonna write here, for example, div ID, and I'm gonna write here service section. Okay, now I'm gonna write here services section. Now we need here the contact section, so let me add that. So I'm gonna write here contact section. Now we need to start the div element and we need ID, and the ID name is contact section. We already set the style for this, so we don't need to style our CSS or style our HTML page. So I'm gonna write here contact section. So let me walk through every part of this. At the top, we have a div with the ID, as you can see. Okay, so we have an ID that says navigation bar. In the CSS, hash navbar has a dark blue background, padding on all sides. We have covered. Let me show you. And the CSS, as you can see, we have a navigation bar, so padding on all sides, and most importantly, position. We set it to sticky. So this means the navigation bar sticks to the top of the screen even when the user scrolls down. A very common and professional pattern on modern websites. Okay, so navigation bar targets all anchor links inside the navigation bar. They are styled with white text, no underline, as you can see, and right margin for spacing and bold font. And if you hover over them, like you can see the effect in the preview tab. Now the four sections, as you can see, home section, about section, as you can see, home section, about section, services section, and the contact section. Each has a different background color, center text using flexbox, and large bold text in the matching color. Okay, so now the critical part, the navigation links we have set here. Let me show you. Here we have the navigation links. So each link's href value starts with hash followed by the ID of the section it should scroll to. So when the user clicks about, for example, let me show you. The browser scrolls to the div with the ID about section. When they click services, it scrolls to the services section, and so on. So this creates a fully functional single page navigation system using nothing but the ID attribute and anchor links. No JavaScript needed at all. So this is one of the most practical real world uses of the ID attribute. Okay, so we have discussed a lot. We have completely understand the ID attribute, and that everyone is everything there is to know about the HTML ID attribute. Let's do a quick recap of what we covered today. We learned that the ID attribute gives a unique identity to an HTML element. We covered all the rules, uniqueness, no spaces, case sensitivity. We saw how to use ID with CSS by using the hash symbol to target specific elements. We learned the critical difference between ID and class. We explored, the JavaScript examples, changing text, changing styles, okay, all using get element by ID. We built a full page navigation system using ID as bookmarks. And finally, we have a lot, we have learned about the ID attribute a lot. So if you found this video helpful and learned something new today, please hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel grow, and let me know you want more content like this. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so you never miss a new tutorial. If you have any questions about anything we covered today, drop them in the comment section below. I read every single comment. I will do my best to answer each one. Thank you so much for watching all the way through, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep coding, keep learning, and take care.